If you're new in town or just new to this whole podcast thing, you're tuning in to Law by Night, the podcast that discusses all things vampiric with no fear of breaching the Masquerade. In this episode, we continue to unravel the mysteries behind the origins, motives, and cultures of the 16 ghostly guilds in the world of darkness. This episode will focus on the Usurers Guild and their Usury Arcanos. You know, dear explorer, how fortunate we are. With the constant doom and gloom that plagues our lives, and indeed the planet, we are rapidly turning into a rancid cesspit. At least our healthcare is free. I could not imagine where we, the confusing folk of the United Kingdom, would be without it. Well, if you allow me to be quite morbid for just a second, we would be dead. I don't think we could survive as the Americans do with their aid-for-cash way of doing things. Then again, they aren't doing so well with it either. The private medical companies are the only ones who sleep easy. Ghosts, on the other hand, don't really sleep. Slumber, yes, but we know that is a very different process for wraiths. They are called restless, dead for a reason, you know. But what in heaven's sake does that have to do with healthcare? Well, unfortunately, quite a bit. The ability to control the energies and physical matter, i.e. precious resources for healthcare, is the talent made profitable by the Usurers Guild, who were once one of the more respected guilds in Stygia with a very useful talent at their disposal. That is, of course, an Arcanos by the name of Usury. It involves the power over death energy, exchanging Pathos with another to heal their corpus. Alternatively, one can turn corpus into Pathos and back again. In the eyes of the Usurers Guild or anyone else likely to exploit this Arcanos, Pathos is the currency of the underworld, and Usury is the Arcanos of barter. It is an Arcanos that allows just as many to be healers, merchants, and extortionists to exist, with many taking on all of these roles on a Sunday lunchtime. As you can imagine, it is quite the risky Arcanos to employ. Well, all of them are, but careless use of a Usury can raise a wraith's angst to unhealthy levels pretty quickly, especially when one uses it against the quick, though it requires embody, puppetry, inhabit, or phantasm to use against the quick. Puppetry allows one to control a mortal and allows them to Usury on the host that way. Embody allows the wraith to materialize in front of the mortal and touch them that way. And inhabit allows one to materialize inside the mortal and have them touch themselves, don't laugh. And phantasm is a touching of the soul during sleep. It is for this reason we know wraiths have this life sight, as we conducted experiments that determine that they can see our life energy, which is a vivid light to them, which is said to dim as they absorb it. Usury, when used incorrectly, can also do the inverse of what they set out to do, so harm rather than aid. With all of this, you can see that it takes only but a touch for it to be nothing less than the theft of life itself. Of course, it is not just limited on mortals, which I'm sure you are aware of, but now you're certain of, in case it wasn't clear. It is, however, fairly straightforward to work out if you are in the presence of a usurer, be it a member of the guild or someone who is well versed in the Arcanos. It is said that many have a tendency to speak in precise numerical terms and are said to carry around scales to keep track of the balance of energy transferred, though we believe that the latter fact applies more to the guild, but we should have to conduct more investigation to determine that. It is also said that those well versed in Usury find that their corporeal skin becomes covered in a series of intricate markings, patterns that are in constant motion, momentarily resolving into mathematical or currency symbols of importance to the wraith in question. As for the Usurers themselves, well, Explorer, I have to admit there is not a lot of information we at the Phoenix Institute know about them, and it's not entirely our fault. We lack the resources to explore the underworld to find out ourselves. Yes, that is all very true, but there is a much simpler reason for this, but let me tell you what we do know. We believe the Usurers came about somewhere in the Proto-Guild stages, or even earlier. You see, they destroyed their archives following the break-in of the guilds, which is said to date back to the early Bronze Age. Their archives claims I mean. Of course, said claims are made by the Usurers themselves are widely debated, even amongst the guilds themselves, but what does remain, which can only be assumed, consists of transactions aplenty. We do know that before the breaking of the guild and the revolt just before it, the Usurers had considerable political strength, as did the other great guilds. The Usurers recognized that any currency system breaks if the controllers lose interest in enforcing a code of honesty and accountability, which allowed them to take their currency system, pathos for corpus and vice versa, to whoever and wherever they pleased. Naturally, deciding to revolt against Charon and his ilk was somewhat of a gamble of survival, one the Usurers were ultimately not prepared to follow through. The support of the hierarchy was far too important to let up. The early withdrawal of the revolt tipped the scales of the revolt to the Legion's favour, but it also doomed the guild, as Charon proved willing to gut his own bureaucracy and economy, and doing so removed another guild from power. Few of the guild's original leaders survived the break-in's fallout. Despite being considered a high guild, the Usurers now perform in secret in order to protect themselves, both from Xeria's Stygian patrols and the other guilds still bitter over the treachery. If you wish to do business with someone of the guild, one has to go on a wild goose chase to find the Usurer in question. If the client seems reliable and came unoccupied, business can commence. As you may suspect, Usurers charge higher prices for unfavorable clientele. It is our understanding that many of the guild sacrifice the heritage of the guild in favor of personal profit. We are, however, aware of 3 factions that exist within the guild. The Vault of Breath includes those Usurers who practice healing, not only the transfer of raw corpus, but the study of afflictions caused by arcani, spectres, and more outre sources. The Vault of Bone still clings to its duties of enforcing the Usurers' agents' checks and balances, and tries to restore some portion of the Usurers' former respect. Bereft of official backing though, its members have little power to bring volunteers into line. Its nemesis is the fallen and feared Vault of Eyes, still intimately familiar with Stygian law but now committed to subverting rather than enforcing it. Wraiths of this order are crime lords, acknowledged as formidable by even the most vicious of spooks. So, in short, dear explorer, money makes the world go round, as is very much the case of the underworld. Usurers were never supporters of the common person, but establishing their own monopoly and, well, they succeeded! To be kept updated, follow the Law by Night VTM Twitter and Instagram pages to find out when we upload each episode. You can also find out by subscribing to the YouTube channel and clicking on the little bell, as you'll be immediately notified when the latest episode is live. Until next time, farewell.